Let's ride. Let's ride. Let's ride.
Just a brief disclaimer, guys, because I like letting you guys know in the beginning of the video, in the event that this isn't for you, there is a large chunk of actual verified news in this video, but there's also some speculation as well. There's some speculation from very reliable sources, while there's also some speculation from more bottom of the barrel sources. And it'll be easy to determine, man. I'll make sure to let you guys know. I just wanted to give you guys that disclaimer before we start, because there's a lot to catch you guys up on Broncos country.
Broncos country. Let's ride. There we go.
But before we get to the content, we do $100 cash giveaways at the end of every week to a subscriber that turns on our notifications on this channel. And now that we get all that out of the way, work! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What is going on, everybody? It has been a very rough start for the Denver Broncos, and honestly, I think it would have been way worse if the Denver Broncos backup QB Brett Rypien ended up leading the Broncos to a win. Ironically, it seems like he put forth the exact same performance that Russell Wilson would have put forth. Now, I'm not making this video to rehash old drama, because at this point, you already know what's going down. There's been moments where Russell Wilson has missed reads. I mean, scratch that. There's been multiple moments where Russell Wilson has missed wide open targets, some that literally cost the Denver Broncos games, some that literally resulted in his wide receiver taking off his helmet and slamming it angrily in the end zone. And I think what's so frustrating about this is, while this is going down, Russell Wilson is putting forward this like charming, charismatic personality in front of cameras. And I think the most recent thing that we're hearing in regards to Russell Wilson is like the epitome of that, and it's either his teammates are annoyed with it or it's the fact that they're just rolling their eyes and going with it. So key parts of this video, there's multiple players that are about to be traded in this video. As a matter of fact, I'm crossing my fingers that they haven't been traded already, because that's already happened to me a couple times over this past week, where I wanted to make a video on a guy, say he's about to get traded, and he does get traded. But in addition to this, we have Russell Wilson doing more of the same stuff that is driving every single member of Broncos country crazy, whether it's a fan or a teammate, and even a rumor that Nathaniel Hackett could be coaching for his job. So let's get this party started. The inspiration for this video came a couple of days ago when I saw Dove Kleiman, who is an individual that has never led me astray, saying that Broncos top pass rusher Bradley Chubb will be traded likely by Tuesday if Denver loses to the Jacksonville Jaguars on week 8, according to Mike Florio. Now I want you to pay attention to that last bit, because that is a common theme in this video. There's a lot of instances where I'm reading reports saying the Broncos are going to do X if they lose to the Jaguars in London. Now, the crazy part about this is London usually hosts the most volatile football games that we have ever seen. I mean, if you remember last year, the last time the Jaguars played in London was Urban Meyer successfully got his win as a NFL head coach. I mean, it was a truly beautiful moment where the Jaguars were able to finally win one for their beloved head coach that would get fired at the end of the year. And the reason why this is so interesting is, guys, with respect to the Denver Broncos so far, I think the Jaguars are a significantly better team than they are. Here's the thing, there's been multiple instances where they've almost won games. I mean, look at their last game versus the New York Giants. Trevor Lawrence came within a few yards of winning that game on a heroic drive towards the end of the game. I think they're one of those teams where their record doesn't necessarily reflect how they are as a team. They have a very underrated defense as well. And while I could see the Broncos winning, because the Broncos also have one of the best defenses in the NFL, we just don't pay attention to it because of how anemic their offense is, it would be interesting to see them have a fire sale as a result of them losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Kleiman isn't done there, because according to Dove Kleiman, he actually discusses why the Broncos would pursue this route, saying much like the Von Miller situation last year, Chubb only has a half a season remaining on his current contract. Miller was traded by the Broncos to the Rams last year in exchange for second and third round picks. That's what Von Miller was getting, with all due respect to Von Miller, because since that trade, the perception around Von Miller has changed tremendously. This is nothing against Von Miller, but during this time last year when Von Miller was on the Denver Broncos, he was perceived to be extremely washed. Rightfully so. He was going into his 10th season. He took a whole season off due to injury. Maybe he wasn't as motivated because he was playing for a rebuilding team. So the fact that the Broncos were able to get a second and a third round pick for him when they traded him to the Rams, to me was incredibly impressive. And that ended up being the best thing for his career. He goes to the LA Rams. He starts lighting up the stat sheet once again. Oh my God, Mike was wrong. Von Miller isn't washed, and he parlays that into a huge contract with the Buffalo Bills, where he once again is chasing a ring with them this year. This situation's a little bit different because Bradley Chubb was drafted very, very recently, is significantly younger, and is in line for a huge payday once he does hit free agency. The number one issue with Chubb has always been his durability, but you might be wondering, Mike, why would the Denver Broncos even entertain this? Well, I have to go ahead and tell you, it's not just Bradley Chubb that they're discussing a trade for. The Broncos have received multiple trade inquiries about star defensive end Bradley Chubb and wide receivers Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. Other teams believe that the Broncos will not sell low in any deal. You can say whatever you want about the Denver Broncos, man, but they've done a hell of a great job making sure that they got the value that their players deserve. I mean, again, I think trading a second and third round pick for Von Miller, who was on an expiring contract after Von Miller spent a decade on your team, was phenomenal. I mean, I thought it was amazing. I'm not going to say the Rams screwed that trade up at all whatsoever because they won a Super Bowl because of it and they were all in. That was a great return for a player that was probably going to leave your team anyways that offseason. But here's what's interesting. Originally, when Russell Wilson came to the Denver Broncos, a huge reason why I thought he was going to be successful was the fact that he has an extremely loaded wide receiver core. I mean, Jerry Jeudy was applauded for his route running coming out of Alabama in a college where he was consistently facing off against top tier defensive backs in practice. He was considered to be a sure thing at the wide receiver position. So was Henry Ruggs, but unfortunately, as Henry Ruggs was breaking out, well, I don't want to go there. KJ Hamler was supposed to take the top off of defenses with his speed. I mean, these two players were true breakout candidates prior to coming into the season. And ironically, despite us having very deep wide receiver draft classes recently, there is a glaring need for multiple teams for wide receiver help. I mean, the Green Bay Packers are desperate for it. The New York Giants would love it. The Giants are 6-1 despite not having a single wide receiver surpass 200 yards this season. The Kansas City Chiefs aren't necessarily desperate for one, but it would be nice if they could get themselves one. And that's just off the top of my head. I know the Baltimore Ravens are in there somewhere, so there's gonna be no shortage of suitors for Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. And this could be because the Denver Broncos may not opt to pick up Jerry Jeudy's 5th-year option, which a decision on that is coming soon. Now, currently, apparently what we're hearing is Broncos wide receiver Jerry Jeudy is available, but the price is very steep for him currently. But despite him having a remarkable pedigree coming out of college, so far he hasn't necessarily had the greatest start to his career. His career catching percentage has been 52.8%, and in 2022 it was 51.1%. Needless to say, it was fairly interesting because Jerry Jeudy had his best performance of the year when his starting QB went down with an injury. Yes, when Brett Rypien was Jerry Jeudy's quarterback, Jeudy was targeted 11 times for 7 receptions and 96 yards for a 63.6% catch percentage. So are the Broncos about to trade Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler and blow everything up if they lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars? As I tweeted out on my page, are the Broncos blowing it up and considering a rebuild just a mere 7 months after they decided to trade Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, including the number 9 overall pick in this year's NFL draft and their 2023 draft pick, which, by the way, is looking like a top 10 draft pick so far, 2 second-round picks, and a 5th-round selection, which, side note, could we appreciate how well the Seattle Seahawks drafted with those picks? I mean, with their 9th pick in the 2022 draft, which was the Broncos pick, the Seattle Seahawks selected Charles Cross. But discussing how incredible the Seahawks draft class was is a topic for a different day because we still have so much to discuss. We haven't even gotten to the latest Russell Wilson incident. You might be wondering, why would they go ahead and make these trades just based upon losing to Jacksonville? The answer is simple. This team has no assets at all whatsoever, and clearly it's not working so far. At least on the offensive end it isn't. Defensively, I think this team is doing really well. I mean, they still have Patrick Surtain, they have Bradley Chubb. Their defense is one of the top defenses in opposing points per game in the entire NFL. So I would do my best to make sure that I keep all those players there. But it's no surprise or no shock, it doesn't seem like most of these players on the Denver Broncos are happy to be there. So maybe a change of scenery is what they need, and maybe they could recoup some assets to build around Russell Wilson, because it's not like if Jerry Jeudy or KJ Hamler breaks out, they would be able to go ahead and afford them. Now, here's the cringiest part about all this. Russell Wilson was actually asked about how these three are on the trade block, and he gave a really interesting commentary on it. Check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, I heard that there's some stuff about, you know, Chubb and Jeudy and these guys. You know, I told him that, listen, yeah, the greater you are, the more people are going to want you, and the more that people are going to keep trying to, you know, throw your names out there and see what hits and what doesn't hit. But I think the reality is that I think Chubb's having his best season. He's been amazing for us, and you know, obviously he's been a captain, he's been a leader, he's a guy that I love to play with, and obviously, you know, we hope that he's with us because, you know, for a long time, because he's special, man. I love playing with this guy. His competitive nature is pretty spectacular.
So Bradley Chubb is currently having a pretty decent season. I wouldn't necessarily call it his best season. He currently has 5.5 sacks through 7 games with the Denver Broncos so far. His best season so far was his rookie season with the Denver Broncos, where he had 12 sacks with them so far. But it gets worse. Listen to Russell Wilson here.
Same thing with Jerry, man. This guy's getting better and better every day. The bond that we have, you know, the joy. So yeah, I mentioned to him one-on-one, you know, that you know, don't take offense to it. Just know that it's something that people are always going to look for you if you're a talented player, and that's the game. And if anybody knows that, I've experienced that personally.
It's so funny that Russell Wilson is trying to phrase this as,
yo, my teammates are just that freaking good. They are wanted around the league.
where it's clear that Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler and maybe even possibly Bradley Chubb clearly want out, because there's been multiple times where the quarterback has just demonstrated incompetence. And the fact that Russell Wilson is coming out here acting like life is good, things are fine, my teammates are so freaking good that the whole league wants them, is just so hysterical to me. I mean, honestly, I'm not necessarily a guy that thinks he could predict the future, but if I were a betting man, I would bet that in 15 to 20 years from now, you'll see Russell Wilson in politics, because he is so good at putting a face on despite things going horribly for his team. So Russell Wilson would pull up to London for a game that clearly is going to define the Denver Broncos season. Look at how this man pulled up. Look at what he is wearing. I mean, look, man, if you guys were undefeated, like, Jalen Hurts gets to do this. But if you think that's bad, wait until you hear the story that they put out about Russell Wilson on the plane. So check this out. Apparently, on the Broncos flight to London, which bear in mind is a fairly long flight, Russell Wilson was working out. He was doing high knees in the aisle while his teammates slept. Dude, you cannot be serious about this. I thought this was a joke, but no, we actually have Russell Wilson on camera saying that he did this.
I don't really get jet lag too often. You know, I don't really, you know, I've traveled enough to get, you know, kind of get my system down. But yeah, for me, I was on the plane. First 2 hours, I was, first 2 hours, about 8 hours flight here. That's the first 2 hours I was watching the film, watching all the cut-ups and everything else. And then for the next 4 hours, I was doing treatment on the plane. I was walking up and down the aisles. Everybody was knocked out. I was doing high knees and working on my legs and everything else, you know, making sure I'm ready to rock. So that was good. And then the last 2 hours, the last hour of that, I fell asleep for 1 hour, and I watched the film the rest. So I felt good to go once we got back. And then we had, you know, coaches did a great job. Coach Landau and on the whole coaching staff, they had us do a little movement. So we got here, did a little movement, I did my pool workout, did all that, and then I don't know, maybe rested for about 2-3 hours once I got home, and I feel great.
Is that the first time you've done treatment on a plane, or do you do it? Has that happened before in your career?
No, I mean I do it, you know, when I need to, you know, especially when it's a longer flight. The more you move, the better you feel when you get off of it. So I've got my secrets. I got my movements, and then tons of water. It always helps. I appreciate you guys. Let's go Broncos. Let's ride. I'll see you guys.
Cheers, Russell.
And then we have KJ Hamler verifying that, yep, this actually happened, saying no BS LOL. Now, here's where it gets extremely speculative, because before I was bringing you speculation from people like Doe Kleiman and Adam Schefter, people that are fairly trustworthy individuals. I mean, Adam Schefter more times than not. But according to Dan Graziano, ESPN, via this Twitter page called Palace Sports, there is belief around the NFL that the result of the Jaguars game could put Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett's job on the line. Now, Pro Football Talk from Mike Florio actually echoed this sentiment, saying the team's new owners didn't hire Broncos coach Nathaniel Hackett. Could the Walmart moguls decide to end the experiment if the Broncos lose to the Jaguars in London? Here's the thing, man. I don't think there is much upside to canning Hackett this early in the season, and I'll tell you what my measuring stick is for this. It's not that I think he's a great coach, because with respect to him, I don't think there's a single part of Nathaniel Hackett that has been a good head coach so far, but also it's the combination with Russell Wilson just missing very easy reads. My basis for Nathaniel Hackett not being fired so far is, as bad of a head coach as he is, he wasn't a worse head coach than Urban Meyer. I think he should get at least that amount of time to coach the Denver Broncos this year. It's not like if you fire Nathaniel Hackett, things are going to get that much better. Now, of course, there's people putting out bets that Nathaniel Hackett's job really could be on the line in the Broncos game against the Jaguars. I don't know. It could be. I feel like I've read reports like this in the past. Like a year ago with the Chicago Bears, there was this report that if Matt Nagy lost a specific game, then he was going to get fired by the Chicago Bears. I think it was their Thanksgiving game. I don't know. I made a video on it, but that report ended up being false. Matt Nagy would get fired at the end of the season, so maybe this could be an indicator that Nathaniel Hackett could be out of Denver following this season. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about all this, man? I know it's a lot of information to unpack. The Broncos are a gigantic dumpster fire. I'm trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's been a little hard to do so. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping her mic until our next upload.